And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever. Jesus is preparing his disciples for the end of his earthly ministry and for being no longer physically present with them. It is within this context that Jesus makes a promise to his disciples, but he also gives them a prerequisite required for that promise to be fulfilled. So let's look firstly at what is the promise that is made in this text that we have just read. Jesus will ask the Father to give the disciples another advocate, we read in the text. It's a little bit of a difficult word, for the Greek word has many English possible translations. We don't have one exact word. Other translations will say he will send another counselor. Others say another helper. Perhaps you've heard the word paraclete before, and that also comes up. Some even put comforter at that point. Our text has one of the possible words, advocate. Another counselor, another advocate is the promise that is being made. What is this key word that we are having difficulty to translate with one English word? The Greek word is parakleton. Para, parallel, something next to something else, parallel parking. So something beside. Kleton comes from the Greek word kaleo, to call. So literally, what is being promised here is someone who is called to stand beside, called to be beside one, to give guidance, to give direction, to give help, someone beside you. The Latin equivalent is, if you translate that into Latin, ad, towards, vocatus, to be called. Vocation is a calling. So advocate is literally one who is called to be beside you. And that is why that word appears in the text. So the word advocate is not meant to be understood for us as a legal term, one who sits in a trial for us or tries to prove that our wrongdoings are right after all, but one who stands beside us to counsel. We use the word advocate in that sense as well. Someone who counsels you, we could say, so what do you advocate that I should do? And there, that word is not a legal term. It's simply one of guidance and of counsel. So Jesus is telling his disciples that he is going to ask his Father, and when he does so, the Father will send them a counselor, an advocate, to be at their side and to guide and counsel them. Jesus can make this promise because he knows God's loving kindness. Although God has all the authority and power to punish, God shows clemency instead. I'm reminded of Joseph, who became the second in command to Pharaoh in Egypt, meeting his brothers who had sold him out into slavery. He showed them loving kindness and clemency instead of retribution. He would henceforth be their helper and guide. He would stand beside them as their brother and not against them as their judge and persecutor. In so doing, Jesus promises his disciples that the counselor, the advocate that he will ask his Father to send, will do likewise for them. He will be at their side. There is yet something more and vitally important that this text tells us about this counselor, this advocate that will be coming. With a superficial reading, the identity of this counselor, this advocate, may remain a bit obscure, just some other entity that is going to be sent at some time in the future. But it is not so. When we read in the text that the Father will send another counselor, another advocate, the identity of this other is revealed. Once again, I do need to refer to the Greek text in which the New Testament was written. There are two words in Greek depicting that can be used to say another. The first one, let me illustrate. Here is a book. It is a church hymnary. Here is another book. This one is a BMW motorcycle service and repair handbook. I found it somewhere in my garage. This is a book. This is another book. But they are different books. Now we come to the other word that can be used. In your pews in front of you, you will find a hymn book. Can you just take it out? Just let me see them. Here is a book, and there is another book. But the identity is the same book. That book and this book have the same identity. They are identical. And that is the meaning. Thank you. You can put your hymn books back. And when Jesus says, I will send you another counselor, another advocate, he uses it in this second sense. Another one who is identical. Identical to who? To himself. He has been with his disciples, counseling them, guiding them, showing the way, being next to them the whole time. And he will send another of identical identity. This other counselor then, the Spirit of truth, is none other than Jesus Christ himself.